Okay, so Peter and I are at 10 ductless head units with 2 outdoor units, and I'll show you what's going on. Here's the units themselves facing each other. Terrible airflow. This, I don't know, 12 inches apart. AB, YMGI units, and this unit right here, we got a layer of ice on the lines. You can see, got a little piece of ice right here. And ice right here. So I'm thinking that we may end up being either low on charge or we have filthy filters inside. So we'll take a look at those. The units are leaking water. And this is all we have access to. Everything's finished. So we're gonna try to get the shop vac, stick it on there, hold one end of the T, and try to pull water out and see if we could get any clogs out or anything like that. And then we'll check filters inside. Okay, so we hit them both with the shop vac, and we got some nice flow out. Definitely got sludge out of there. So at least that one was clogged, because a lot of sludge came out of that. But we'll hit them a little bit more with the vacuum, and hopefully we get some more water. It's tough because everything's in the walls and this is our only access to drain lines. Okay, so with that done, all of these units here covered in oily residue. So that is not good. And it's a lot of units here. And 128 ounces of refrigerant. We're gonna have to see what she's gonna want to do about that. Here you can see they didn't even use the right cover port. They just used a flare fitting for that, and it's not even like screwed on properly. They cross-threaded the screws. So that you can't even put a new cap on because it's cross-threaded. And it doesn't look like there's any or much oily residue here, so we'll see what happens. These are filters. These aren't even the worst ones. But some of the units, or one of the units is actually frozen solid inside, which we can't do much about on that unit because it needs to thaw out. Maybe we could put it in heat mode, but then we can't test the other units in cooling. So we're gonna see how she wants to proceed with that one. But for now, we have 2 issues. Extremely dirty filters, and we had a clogged drain line. So I think we should be okay. I think the units that were leaking were off of that one really plugged up drain line over here. I think they were all connected to this one. Yeah, look at all that water draining now that the ice is thawing out. But good, now we know we're draining well. So I sprayed treatment into every unit, hand treatment to Viper. And you can see that sludge that was in there. But nice, I'm glad I see water coming into that one. So then we will hook up gauges and see how they're operating. These ones, man, it's tough because I don't really know where everything's going. I think that these 2 are going to be our first floor units. And let's see, oh no, there's 3 here. Then these 3 might be the basement. These 2 might be first floor, or second floor, and those might be first floor. It's like hard to know without putting the units on. Okay, so we had to use the evap cleaner to get all these clean. The dirt didn't want to come off, but rinsing the last 2 out, you could see they're like brand new now, so that's good. Okay, so both units are on. This one's condensing a lot on both lines. It's a little warmer than ambient. This one right here is just ambient temperature. Hooked up to our suction, we're at 33 degrees. It's not great. And these are all just not doing anything at all. So definitely going to be issues with refrigerant here. Okay, so this is a pretty tough situation for her because they're fairly new units. They're about 4 years old, and the refrigerant's leaking. I discussed everything thoroughly with her. I discussed the sealant, which I actually recommended holding off on because I don't want to risk damaging such new equipment. If it were older, I would say do it, but I left it up to her. But we're not going to do sealant. We're going to add refrigerant for now, and then she's going to try to budget and have us come back at a later date to find and fix the leaks. It's just not something that's in the budget for her, the time to fix it, and whatever we may have to do. I have a feeling outside those flare connections on that one unit are going to need to be redone. We're definitely going to need a cap on that service port. And as far as the lines, I don't know, because these line sets tend to leak and they're all inside the walls. Probably, I want to say there's maybe like 1,000 feet of line set in the walls. So we're just adding refrigerant for now. So we're at around 2 degrees of superheat, 39 degree evaporator with 5 pounds. So I'm going to leave it at that for this one. We're discharging warm air now. That may be, hopefully, the issue with that system freezing. And now we'll move on to this one, which I think is going to be much lower. And if you take a look here, they have brazed connections, which it's nice to avoid that when you can. But I'm guessing they're all going to be brazed. We're hooking up to this one as this one ramps up. We got all the units turned on. And this one's not doing terrible so far. Nothing's freezing yet, but it isn't discharging any heat at all, so. Okay, so we spent 2.5 hours there after adding refrigerant, which was 5 pounds and 6 pounds. I think maybe it could have taken a little bit more, but I didn't want to overcharge it. And 1.7 miles. The systems began to leak. At least one of them began to leak. We pulled it apart. The pan was fine. It was draining fine. It is very humid today, and it is a small unit. I think it's a 9 in a very large area. And I've had it be the case that it happens because it's overloaded with humidity and like with heat demand or cooling demand. Not with that particular model, but with other models in the past. So I called the manufacturer. I'm going to wait for them to get back to me. I want to see what he says about the whole thing. And we're just going to have to take it from there. She was a super, super, super nice customer and really appreciate it. And I did the best that I could. At this point, there's really nothing that I could do. We completely checked the drain line on that unit, and it drains no problem. It's just that when it's running, it's like it has too much condensate and it starts dripping down the front cover. But we'll see what happens. Heading on to another job now that I don't know if I'll record because Mike will be recording. And we'll see what happens there. We're doing a full maintenance on this unit. We got all the panels off so we could do a good coil cleaning on it. It's pretty filthy inside as well.
You see, and all those armchair HVAC technicians sitting in their parents' basement, right? They're sitting in their parents' basement in front of a computer, wearing tighty whities and a Wi-Fi, right? I'm going to probably have 2 cabanas. We're going to accommodate probably 30 people. And don't worry, other people can come. They have to just go on the lower level. You know,
so we finished up there. Mike recorded everything, so I didn't really bother. We're heading now to an AC not cooling properly, I believe is the call. But on that job that we just left, we put in a hard start, new run capacitor, and just did a full coil cleaning, traded the air handler, put out the drain line. And we'll see what's going on with this unit. Mike was just there, and now we're going to see what's going on. So first things first, I already walked over to them and checked them out. The amount of heat coming off of them is insane. So I want to try to clean off these coils, see if we can bring that discharge temperature down, help them cool a little bit better. They're both really old units, and he's planning on replacing them. He's just waiting on neighbors to move out. So he just wants to try to keep them as optimal as possible for the time being. You can see they don't look like they're packed with debris, but it looks to be deceiving. with the way the air is flowing, which is right here and not up, and how much heat is coming out, I think they're going to be pretty dirty. Okay, so since these are such simple units and such thin grates, we can just pop the fan off and really get full access to everything. I rinsed it out really well, applied that chemical on there, and I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it's got a nice yellow tinge, brown tinge to it. So they definitely were dirty. As I was blowing it out, you could see a little, like, a darkness in the water too. That's why we always clean the coils, because regardless of how they look, they could still be very dirty. He's rinsing off this one, and I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but that's not, in some spots it's clear water, but it's not clear in all the spots. Like, it's carrying dirt out just from that. And then we cleaned out as much debris as we could from the insides, and then I rinsed off the bottom on this one to push any of that dirt out of there so the pan can drain. After we rinse out the chemical, we'll really thoroughly try to clear that out. You can see right there, it's really pulling out debris. We're heavily coating it. That's why he's spraying it on the outside gently. So hopefully they perform a lot better from a cleaning alone, but we'll check pressures, make sure that's all okay after we rinse them out. And we're blowing that chemical out really well to make sure that we remove it all. I already blew it all out on this one, and hopefully we get a lot of an improvement, but we'll just rinse these out so they're clean, try to dilute the chemical as much as possible, and get them up and running and check everything else. Okay, so we got the first floor, the more concerning one that he's concerned about, turned on, and so far subcooling in our superheat looks okay. It's an R22 system, but again, we have to wait for the coil to dry off a little bit more. It's pretty much dry by now, and let it run for a little bit to stabilize, but it looks like we're going to be okay on charge. Okay, so I'm hooked up to the other system, which is satisfied right now. He's lowering the temperature remotely. This one is really pretty okay. The subcooling's very high, but the air is also discharging directly above, which is really nice. The temperature on here drops significantly on our discharge. I know it's kind of hard to really read it accurately with this, but you could see compared to before, it's a lot better. And the same should happen with this one. Hopefully this cools a little bit better for him, but there's not much that we could do. They are R22 systems, but this cleaning made such a difference. You can actually seriously feel the airflow so much right here now, and not out the side. So my pressures have hardly moved at all from the standing pressures. Suction line and liquid line are almost like the same temperature. I don't think this compressor is really moving any refrigerant. Or at least it's really slow to move it. But we'll see what happens as it runs for a little longer. It's only been on for 5 minutes, but still. This is like 10 psi higher than standing, and this is the same as it was standing. And the gauges work, so weird. Okay, so Peter and I are at this ream unit at a customer whose Jandy I just fixed. That's going to be part of a separate video. But we're moving on now to his AC unit, which all of a sudden stopped working. It's from 2020, fairly new. It's a ream impact driver with a 1/4 inch. He says when they turn it on, they get a buzzing. I pulled the disconnect, and we're gonna see what's going on with it. It's a 3-ton standard ream. Coil doesn't look filthy. He hasn't had any maintenance done, and the unit is sinking into the ground or covered by rocks, but it doesn't look awful. First thing we're gonna do is test our capacitor. If you want to get the meter out, Peter. Pull off our leads. And then by using leverage, I'm also discharging the capacitor. But Peter will set it for capacitance. Should be reading 45.5. Really? 0? And 0.6? Wiggle them a little bit on there. Like, shove them in that hole. And yeah, we got a completely dead 45.5 capacitor. If you want to go ahead and grab a 45.5 capacitor, and we'll see what happens when we try to turn it on. Okay, so I'm gonna run inside. The amp meter is hooked up, and Peter's gonna see what happens when I turn the thermostat on. Worst comes to worst, pull the disconnect. Check pressures as well. So our pressures and temperatures are fluctuating a good amount. Seems to be a pretty low superheat, and yeah, it's weird how much it's bouncing around. I'm wondering if that is my temperature clamps. You want to grab a piece of scratchy paper out of the bag? Yeah, so I cleaned the pipes off, and we have a low subcooling and a low superheat. So that's odd. I wonder what's going on at the indoor unit. I wonder if they put a 410 unit on an R22 coil. Okay, just taking a peek at the air handler. It's a Fujitsu 208, 240, 410A refrigerant. So this is a pretty hack job install, but the filter was also plugged solid dirty, so we're pulling that out. So the subcooling went up to 12 degrees on this, and the superheat went up to 11 after I removed that dirty filter. This system, the compressor's running, and the fan's not running. Yeah, oh my goodness. Sky high, super hot. I'm gonna let them know about that. And this one had a dead 50/5 capacitor, and the hard start was incredibly hot too. There we go. I neatened it up a bit. This capacitor was just laying in here, the start capacitor. We got the new one in, and should be good to plug it in, and hopefully that's it. There we go. Now we're running and discharging heat. So this one has an awful fur coat on it. Absolutely, like, terrible. But at least it's running and cooling now. And finished them both off with the pipe doctor sticker. And I threw one on the other unit on the other side. Collected payment. There's that other unit and it's a really nice pool. But here's the Jandy equipment that I just fixed. So fixed 3 things in one call. That's kind of cool. And that filthy filter. That's not the dirty side. The dirty side was the other side. But we're headed home now. So hopefully you enjoy watching the video. Like it if you liked it, comment any advice or criticisms or feedback, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.